Michael had always believed their street was one of the safest places in town. The houses were neat, the lawns trimmed, and children often played outside until the sun went down. His wife, Taylor, loved the quiet mornings there, when she could water the small flowers by the porch and hear nothing but birds and the soft hum of the wind. For years, they lived without fear, believing that peace had finally become their reality. On a bright Saturday morning, the sound of the front gate opening disturbed that calm. Michael glanced through the window and saw a man walking down the lane with a strange authority in his steps. The man wore what looked like a uniform, but something about it didn't feel right. His badge was too shiny, his shirt slightly wrinkled, and his smile seemed forced. The patch on his chest said HOA, which usually meant neighborhood security or management, but Michael had never seen this man before. Strange, Michael whispered to himself. Taylor came out of the kitchen with 2 cups of coffee. She followed his eyes and saw the man as well. Her face did not change, but her eyes sharpened. She placed the cups on the table and walked closer to the window. "Do you know him?" she asked softly. Michael shook his head. "No, never seen him before. But he looks like he's trying too hard." The man stopped in front of their house, staring at the mailbox as if it had committed some crime. Michael, being a polite man, stepped outside with a friendly smile. Taylor followed him, her steps light, her posture calm. "Good morning," Michael greeted. "Can I help you with something?" The man looked at him with a crooked smile. "Yes. I'm with the HOA. Your car is parked too close to the sidewalk. That's against the rules." Michael frowned slightly. "We've never had that issue before. I didn't know that was a rule." The man's voice grew sharper. "It is now. And you'll need to pay a fine." Taylor felt a knot form in her stomach. She had dealt with many people in her life, people who wanted control, people who thrived on intimidation. Something about this man's tone felt wrong, like he wasn't here for rules at all. "Do you have identification?" Taylor asked calmly. "Something official from the HOA office." The man's eyes flickered, and for a moment his fake smile faltered. Then, instead of answering, he reached to his waist. What happened next made Michael's heart stop. From beneath his shirt, the man pulled out a small black gun and waved it toward them. His smile returned, but this time it was cruel. "This is my identification," he said coldly. Michael froze in shock. His mind went blank, fear crawling through every part of his body. His hands trembled, and his breath came fast. He wasn't used to such danger. He was a man of peace, of routine, of simple living. But Taylor, she was different. The moment the gun appeared, something changed in her. Her eyes, which had been soft and patient, became sharp like steel. Her shoulders straightened, and her breathing slowed instead of quickening. Michael glanced at her in disbelief. She didn't look scared. She looked prepared. The man didn't notice the shift in her. He was too focused on Michael, enjoying the fear on his face. "Move the car. Pay the fine. Do as I say," he barked, waving the gun. Taylor stepped slightly in front of Michael, her voice calm but firm. "You don't need to do this," she said evenly. "Put the gun away. Leave now, and no one gets hurt." The man laughed. "You think you can tell me what to do? You don't know who I am." But in truth, he didn't know who she was. Taylor had lived many lives before marrying Michael. Lives she didn't talk about. She had served in places far from home, in situations more dangerous than this quiet street could ever imagine. While Michael believed she had left that world behind, the truth was she was still part of it, still active, still trusted, still carrying the skills that came with being part of one of the most elite units in the world, Delta Force. She never wanted to bring that part of her life into their marriage. She wanted peace, ordinary days, and gentle mornings. But when danger knocked, she could not ignore what she was trained to do. The man stepped closer, his grin widening. "I said pay the fine." His voice rose, and the gun pointed directly at Michael now. Taylor moved slightly, her hand curling into a fist, her stance shifting in a way only a trained eye could notice. Michael glanced at her, confusion mixing with fear. She looked like a different person, someone he didn't fully recognize. In that tense moment, the world seemed to slow. The sound of birds disappeared. The breeze stopped. Even Michael's breathing felt heavy and loud in his own ears. All he could see was the gun, the stranger's twisted grin, and the calm fire in his wife's eyes. Michael didn't yet know what Taylor was capable of. He didn't know her past, the nights she spent in foreign lands, the battles she had fought silently. But he was about to find out. Because Taylor was no ordinary wife. And this man had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The man's finger twitched near the trigger, and Michael felt his knees weaken. His chest tightened with fear. He wanted to shout, to beg the man to stop, but the words would not come. All he could do was stare at the weapon pointed at him. But Taylor was steady, almost unnaturally calm. Her voice cut through the heavy silence like a clear bell. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "You need to leave. Right now." The man sneered, taking another step forward. "You don't scare me. You're just a woman standing in my way." Michael felt anger flare through his fear. He wanted to tell the man that his wife was far more than she appeared, but he didn't have the chance. In one smooth, trained motion, Taylor shifted her weight forward. Her hand snapped up, quick as lightning, striking the man's wrist. The gun flew out of his grip, clattering against the pavement. The sound echoed down the quiet street. Michael gasped, hardly believing what he had just seen. Before the man could react, Taylor pushed him back with a firm shoulder strike. He stumbled, eyes wide with surprise. His confidence cracked. He had expected fear, not resistance, certainly not from her. What are you doing?" he stammered. Taylor stood tall, her eyes locked on him. "Stopping you before you hurt anyone." The man cursed under his breath and lunged toward the gun on the ground, but Taylor moved faster. She kicked the weapon out of reach, sending it sliding under the bushes. The man froze, his chest heaving with rage. Michael's heart pounded in his ears. He stared at Taylor, struggling to process what was happening. She moved with precision, with control, as if this wasn't the first time she had faced danger. In fact, she looked more at home in this tense moment than she ever had during their quiet evenings on the couch. "Taylor," Michael whispered, unable to hide the shock in his voice. "How did you?" She didn't answer him. Her attention stayed on the man, her body ready for anything. The intruder's face twisted with frustration. Without his gun, he was smaller, less powerful. But still, he tried to bluff. "You don't know who you're messing with," he barked. "I'll come back with people. You'll regret this." Taylor's voice was sharp and commanding. "You won't be coming back. You're finished here." The man's bravado faltered under her steady gaze. He took a step back, then another. For the first time since arriving, he looked unsure, even afraid. Finally, he turned and ran down the street, disappearing through the gate he had entered from. The silence afterward felt heavy. Michael stood frozen on the porch, staring at his wife. The adrenaline in his veins made him shaky, but Taylor looked almost untouched, as if her heart had stayed calm the whole time. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Taylor, what just happened? How did you know how to do all that?" She turned to him slowly. For a moment, her eyes softened, the steel melting away. "Michael," she said quietly, "there's a part of my life I never told you about. I didn't want it to touch our home. I wanted peace with you. But it seems the past doesn't always stay hidden." Michael swallowed hard, searching her face for answers. "You're saying, you've done this before? You've been in situations like this?" Taylor nodded, her gaze steady. "Yes. More times than I can count. I've been trained for it. I'm not just your wife who makes coffee in the morning. I serve in a place most people don't even know exists. I'm still active." Michael blinked, stunned. The woman he thought he knew, the gentle, caring partner who laughed at his jokes and loved quiet mornings, was also something else entirely. She was someone who could disarm an armed man without hesitation. Someone who carried secrets far larger than their simple life. "You mean," his voice trembled, "you're still serving?" "In the military." Taylor gave a small nod. "Yes. Special Operations. Delta Force." The words hit him like a storm. Michael took a step back, trying to understand. "Delta Force? That's not just military. That's," he trailed off, struggling to find the right words. Taylor reached for his hand, her touch gentle despite the intensity of the moment. "I didn't tell you because I wanted to protect you from that world. I wanted you to see me as your wife, not as a soldier. But today, I didn't have a choice. You deserve to be safe." Michael squeezed her hand, though his mind was still racing. "I don't know what to say. I feel like I don't even know who you are." "You do know me," Taylor said softly. "The woman you love is real. The life we share is real. But yes, there's another side of me. One I rarely let out. Today you saw it because I couldn't let you be harmed." Tears burned at the corners of Michael's eyes. He wasn't crying out of sadness, but out of a mix of fear, relief, and deep admiration. "You saved me," he whispered. "If you hadn't been here," Taylor held his gaze. "I'll always be here." Just then, their neighbor, Mrs. Rivera, hurried over. She had heard the commotion from her front yard. "Are you both okay?" "I heard shouting." Michael forced a shaky smile. "We're fine. It was just someone pretending to be from the HOA." Mrs. Rivera frowned, glancing down the street. "I'll call the police. People like that shouldn't be walking around here." As she rushed back inside, Michael turned once more to his wife. He studied her face, the calm strength in her eyes, and realized their life was not as simple as he had always believed. He was married to someone extraordinary. And though he didn't yet know how to live with this new truth, he knew one thing with absolute certainty: Taylor had just saved his life. The flashing lights of the police cars painted the quiet street in red and blue. Neighbors gathered in small groups, whispering nervously. Some pointed toward Michael and Taylor's house, while others kept their distance, afraid of what they had just heard. Michael stood on the porch, his arms crossed tightly as if holding himself together. His mind was spinning. The fear from earlier still lingered, but now it was mixed with confusion and disbelief. He kept glancing at Taylor, who looked calm even as officers moved around taking statements. One officer, tall with a steady voice, approached them. "Sir, ma'am," he said politely. "We're investigating. We've found a gun under your bushes. It's real, loaded. Do you have any idea who that man was?" Michael shook his head quickly. "No. He claimed he was from the HOA. But he was lying. We've never seen him before." The officer scribbled notes, then looked at Taylor. "And how did you manage to get the weapon away from him?" Michael froze. His eyes flicked to his wife. This was the question he had been asking himself all along. Taylor did not flinch. "Training," she said simply. "I was in the military. I knew what to do." The officer studied her for a long moment, as if sensing there was more to her story. Then he nodded. "Well, whatever your background, you handled it well. You saved lives today. That man could have hurt your husband, maybe even others in the neighborhood." Michael's chest tightened at the words. He already knew she had saved him. Hearing it from someone else made it feel even heavier. After the police left, the neighbors slowly returned to their homes. The street became quiet again, though the calm felt fragile, as if it could shatter any moment. Michael and Taylor went inside, closing the door behind them. The silence in the living room was louder than any noise outside. Michael sank into the couch, running a hand through his hair. "I still can't believe this," he whispered. "One moment, I thought I was going to die. The next moment, you were someone else." Taylor sat across from him, her hands folded on her lap. She looked at him with quiet patience. "I'm still me, Michael. I haven't changed. You've just seen a part of me I kept hidden." He let out a shaky laugh. "Hidden? Taylor, you disarmed a man with a gun like it was nothing. That's not normal. That's not something people just do." Her eyes softened. "I know. But I never wanted to bring that world into our marriage. I wanted us to live a life free of all that. I thought I could leave it behind whenever I was with you." Michael looked at her, torn between awe and fear. "So you're telling me you're still in Delta Force? Still active?" She nodded. "Yes. I still serve when I'm called. I can't talk about missions, I can't share details. But it's part of me, Michael. It always will be." He leaned back, closing his eyes. His chest rose and fell heavily. "All this time, I thought I knew everything about you. And now I feel like I only knew half." Taylor stood and walked over, sitting beside him. She placed her hand over his. "You know the most important parts," she said softly. "The parts that matter to us, the mornings we share, the love we have, the dreams we build. That's real, Michael. That's who I am when I'm with you." His throat tightened. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to cling to the life they had built. But part of him still trembled at the thought of the world she carried inside her. That night, after the neighborhood grew quiet, Michael found himself pacing the kitchen. He stared at the small coffee mugs they used every morning, the kind Taylor always insisted on keeping because they reminded her of their first trip together. How could the same woman who laughed about silly mugs be the one who moved like a shadow, faster than his eyes could follow? Taylor came in silently and leaned against the doorway. "Can't sleep?" she asked gently. He shook his head. "I keep seeing it over and over. That gun pointing at me, and then you stepping forward like you weren't afraid at all. How do you stay that calm?" She walked closer, her voice steady. "Because I've faced worse. I've been trained to put fear aside and focus on what needs to be done. Fear is there, but I don't let it control me. Michael sighed, running his hands over his face. And you've been carrying this all alone? All this time? Yes, she said honestly. Because I didn't want to burden you. I didn't want you to worry every time I stepped outside. I wanted you to see me as your wife, not as a soldier living two lives. He looked at her, his eyes heavy with emotion. But you're both. You can't hide that from me anymore. Not after today. Taylor sat down beside him again, her hand resting lightly on his arm. You're right. I can't hide it. And I don't want to. But I need you to understand, no matter what I've done, no matter what I still do, my heart belongs here. With you. Michael's chest ached at her words. He wanted to believe them, and deep down he knew they were true. But adjusting to this truth was not easy. He finally reached for her hand, holding it tightly. I don't know how to process all of this. But I do know one thing. You saved me. You saved us. And for that, I'll always be grateful. For the first time since the morning's chaos, Taylor allowed herself to breathe deeply. She leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. Together they sat in silence, not knowing what tomorrow would bring, but certain of one thing: whatever challenges lay ahead, their bond had to be stronger than fear. The following week felt different in the neighborhood. The air was the same, the houses looked the same, but the way people looked at Taylor had changed. Before, she was simply Michael's kind wife who waved while watering her flowers and brought cookies to community gatherings. Now, whispers followed her wherever she went. Mrs. Rivera, their elderly neighbor, treated her with even more respect than before. Every time she saw Taylor, she would say, "You're so brave, dear," and bring over extra baked goods as if gratitude could be repaid in sugar. But not everyone reacted kindly. One afternoon, when Taylor walked to check the mailbox, she noticed two women from down the street watching her carefully. Their voices were low, but Taylor had been trained to catch details, even whispers. She threw him down like nothing, one woman said. I heard she used to be in some secret unit. The other shook her head. It's unsettling. I mean, who lives next door to someone like that? Makes me nervous. Taylor pretended not to hear, but the words stung. She had wanted a simple life, a normal life. She had worked hard to build one with Michael. Now, one incident had pulled her carefully hidden world into the light. Michael noticed the change too. At the grocery store, people greeted him differently, with cautious curiosity. His friends at work asked about the incident, and whether his wife really had military training. He didn't know how to answer without feeling protective. One evening, while Michael sat on the couch with his laptop, he sighed heavily. Taylor, who was folding laundry nearby, noticed his troubled face. What's wrong? She asked gently. He closed the laptop and looked at her. People are treating you like you're dangerous, Taylor. Some are grateful, sure, but others, they're afraid. And I don't know how to handle that. She placed a folded shirt on the table and sat down beside him. I can't control what people think, she said quietly. I can only control what I do. If they want to see me as dangerous, let them. But you know me. You know who I really am. Michael nodded slowly, but the weight inside him didn't fully lift. He still struggled with the truth about her life, and the distance it sometimes placed between them. 2 nights later, the HOA held an emergency community meeting in the park. Everyone gathered under the dim lights, talking about safety, locks, and how to prevent another intruder from entering. Michael and Taylor sat together on one of the benches, but as the meeting went on, the focus shifted toward them. A tall man from the other side of the street stood up and said loudly, "We all know what happened last week. I just want to say I'm thankful your wife was there. But I think we also deserve to know if our neighborhood is safe. If someone like her is living here, doesn't that bring more risk?" The crowd murmured. Some nodded in agreement, others looked uncomfortable. Michael's chest tightened. He wanted to defend his wife, but before he could speak, Taylor stood up. Her voice was calm, steady, but carried enough strength that everyone fell silent. "I understand your concerns," she said. "Yes, I served in the military. Yes, I was trained to handle dangerous situations. But that doesn't make this neighborhood unsafe. In fact, it makes me even more determined to protect the peace here. I don't want trouble. I don't bring trouble. What happened was not because of me, it was because someone else came here pretending to be what he wasn't." A hush fell. The man shifted uncomfortably, unable to argue with her clear words. Mrs. Rivera clapped softly, then others followed, until the tension eased. Michael looked at his wife with awe. She didn't just defend herself, she defended their entire home. Later that night, as they walked back, Michael reached for her hand. "You were incredible," he said. "The way you spoke, it reminded me that you don't just carry strength in your body, but in your heart." Taylor smiled softly. "I don't want to fight with people. I just want us to live quietly. But sometimes, peace has to be protected." As the days passed, things slowly calmed in the neighborhood. People began to speak to Taylor more kindly again, some even asking her for advice on how to keep their families safe. She answered gently, giving them simple tips without revealing too much of her world. But inside their house, Michael still wrestled with unspoken questions. At night, when Taylor fell asleep beside him, he lay awake staring at the ceiling. He thought about her past missions, the danger she had faced, and the fact that she was still active. He loved her deeply, but he worried about what it meant for their future. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the windows, Michael finally spoke what was in his heart. "Taylor, can I ask you something? Do you ever plan to stop? To leave that world completely?" She looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "I think about it often," she admitted. "But leaving isn't easy. I still have responsibilities. People depend on me." Michael's voice trembled. "And what about me? Don't I depend on you too? Don't we deserve a life without shadows?" The room grew quiet. Taylor reached out, taking his hand gently. "You do deserve that. And I want it too. But until the time is right, I can't walk away. Please trust me. When the moment comes, I'll choose us." Michael stared at her, torn between love and fear. He wanted to believe her words. He wanted to trust that one day, they would have the peaceful life they dreamed of. For now, he held her hand tightly, clinging to the one truth that mattered most. Whatever her past or present, she was his wife, and she loved him with a strength that no secret could erase. The morning was gray, with clouds heavy above their quiet street. Michael sat at the kitchen table, staring at his coffee. The events of the past week kept replaying in his mind: the gun, the police, the whispers of neighbors, and the sharp, calm way Taylor had handled everything. He loved her more than anything, but a small seed of doubt had begun to grow inside him. Taylor walked in from the garden, brushing dirt from her hands. "Morning, she said softly, trying to lighten the tension she could feel. Morning, Michael replied, his voice distant. He didn't want to worry her, but he couldn't hide what had been gnawing at him. Taylor sat across from him, noticing the shadows under his eyes. "You're thinking about it again, aren't you?" she asked gently. He nodded. I keep imagining all the places you've been, all the things you've done. How can I ever feel safe knowing there's a world out there where danger is your everyday?" Taylor reached across the table and took his hand. "Michael, I understand. But you need to know something important. I'm here. I'm not out there right now. I've chosen to come home. Every day I wake up next to you, I choose this life too." He tried to absorb her words, but the images in his mind refused to fade. She had saved him once, but what if the next danger came from somewhere he couldn't see? What if she had to leave in the middle of the night for a mission he could never follow? Before he could speak further, the doorbell rang. Taylor's eyes narrowed slightly, alert instantly. Michael jumped slightly at the sound, feeling the tension in the air spike again. "I'll get it," Taylor said, standing gracefully. Her movements were calm, but her senses were clearly alert. She opened the door to find a man in a dark suit. His face was serious, and his eyes swept the house quickly before resting on her. "Miss Taylor," he said politely but firmly. "I need a word with you. It's important." Michael appeared behind her, confused. "Who is this?" he asked. The man glanced at Michael but didn't answer him directly. "I'm here on official business. Miss Taylor, we need to discuss a matter from your previous assignments. It requires your attention immediately." Taylor's face remained calm, but Michael noticed the subtle tension in her jaw. She stepped aside and motioned for the man to enter. "Michael, I'll be back soon," she said softly. "Everything is fine. Just, trust me." Michael nodded, but his stomach twisted with worry. He watched as Taylor led the man to the living room. Once the door closed, he sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling. His mind raced. How could he trust that this life, this secret world, wouldn't pull her away again? Minutes passed, then what felt like hours. Finally, Taylor returned, her expression serious but composed. "It's handled," she said quietly. Michael's voice shook slightly. "Handled? What does that mean?" She sat beside him and held his hands. "It means someone needed information. I answered their questions. Nothing more. No danger, nothing immediate. But it reminded me, and I hope you too, that my past is still part of me. Sometimes, it comes calling unexpectedly." He leaned back, letting out a heavy sigh. "I don't know if I can ever be okay with this. I love you, but how do I live with the uncertainty? How do I know I'm not going to lose you to that world?" Taylor's eyes softened. She brushed a strand of hair from his face. "Michael, I can't erase the past. I can't erase my duty. But I can promise you this: I will never let you be in danger, and I will never let my choices take me away from you without reason. You are my home now, and I fight to keep it that way." He looked into her eyes, seeing the unwavering truth there. She was speaking from her heart, but he still felt a shiver of fear. Loving someone extraordinary was not easy. Ordinary life would never be completely ordinary with her. Over the next few days, Michael tried to adjust. He found himself watching Taylor more carefully, noticing small movements, tiny expressions, as if he could predict danger before it arrived. He realized that living with a hero was not about stopping her, it was about trusting her, even when he felt uncertain. One afternoon, as they sat together on the porch, Michael broke the silence. "Taylor, I think I understand something now. Your life, your skills, they make you who you are. And I love all of you. I just have to learn how to live with it." Taylor smiled softly, leaning against him. "That's all I ask. Learn to trust me. And I'll always be here." Michael took a deep breath, letting the tension in his chest loosen slightly. "I'll try," he said. "I want to try. Because I can't imagine a life without you." Taylor rested her head on his shoulder. "Good. Because I choose this life, with you, every day." For the first time in days, Michael felt a quiet peace settle around them. The world outside was still unpredictable, still dangerous in ways he could not see. But inside their home, with Taylor beside him, he realized that trust could become a shield stronger than fear. And though he knew challenges were still ahead, he also knew that together, they could face them one careful, courageous step at a time. The neighborhood had seemed calm for several days, but Taylor felt a tension she could not shake. It was subtle cars that lingered too long, shadows moving where there shouldn't be, and unfamiliar faces walking past their house multiple times. Her instincts, honed over years of service, whispered that someone was watching. Michael, meanwhile, had returned to his routine at work, but he noticed Taylor's eyes constantly scanning the street. "You're worrying too much," he said one evening as she peered out the window. Taylor shook her head slightly. "It's not worry, Michael. I sense something. It's probably nothing, but I can't ignore it." He reached out and held her hand. "If it's nothing, then don't let it steal our peace. Please." Taylor squeezed his hand, grateful for his trust. Yet she knew better than to dismiss her instincts. That night, she checked the locks, peered through windows, and made sure the yard was secure. She moved quietly, precise, each step calculated, each shadow observed. Around midnight, a soft noise outside made her freeze. Someone was trying the gate. Taylor's heart remained calm, but her body tensed like a spring ready to release. Michael stirred in bed, half asleep. "What is it?" he whispered. Taylor put a finger to her lips, then whispered, "Stay quiet. Someone is outside." Michael's pulse quickened. He had learned by now to trust her instincts, even if fear still gripped him. He got out of bed quietly and moved closer, though he kept his distance, letting Taylor take the lead. She crept to the window, peering through the blinds. A man was crouched near the gate, trying to pry it open with a small tool. He hadn't noticed her yet. Taylor's mind raced. She could call the police, but she knew that response time would be slow. She needed to handle this quickly before the man gained access. Michael's voice shook slightly. "Taylor, what are you going to do?" She didn't answer. Instead, she moved silently toward the front door, careful not to alert the intruder. Michael followed at a distance, fear and awe mixing in his chest. Taylor opened the door just enough to see the man. Her voice, calm and commanding, cut through the night. "Stop. Put that down. Now." The intruder froze, startled by the authority in her tone. He turned slightly, realizing he had been caught. I was just checking," he stammered, but his words faltered. Taylor stepped fully into the light, her posture straight, her eyes unwavering. "You're trespassing. I suggest you leave before this becomes worse for you." The man's hands shook. He wasn't ready for her confidence. He tried to move forward, but Taylor moved faster. In one controlled motion, she disarmed him, knocking the tool from his hands and guiding him down gently but firmly to the ground. Michael watched, holding his breath. Each movement she made was precise, practiced, like she had done this countless times. Yet, she was not cruel. She only controlled the situation, protecting them and keeping the intruder from harm. When the man finally sat on the ground, clearly defeated, Taylor spoke again, firm but calm. "You leave now and don't come back. You are lucky I am not pressing charges this time. Consider this a warning." The man nodded quickly, too frightened to speak, and fled down the street. Taylor closed the door and locked it, her body relaxing slightly. She turned to Michael, who was pale but safe. You handled that?" he asked, voice trembling. Taylor nodded. "Yes. No one is hurt. That's the goal. But this is a reminder. We can't assume we're completely safe just because the neighborhood seems quiet." Michael took her hands in his mind spinning. "I don't know how you do it. I can't imagine facing someone like that and staying calm. But you make it look so easy." Taylor smiled softly. "It's not easy. But it's necessary. I don't want fear to control us, so I act before fear can grow." He shook his head, admiration and worry battling inside him. "I want to trust you completely, Taylor. But every time something like this happens, I realize how real your world is. And how little I know about it." She leaned closer, placing her forehead gently against his. "You don't have to know everything, Michael. You just have to trust me. I'm here. I'm with you. That's what matters." Michael exhaled slowly, letting the tension ease a little. He realized that trusting her didn't mean ignoring fear, it meant believing in her skills, her judgment, and her love, even when danger came unexpectedly. That night, they stayed close, holding hands and listening to the quiet hum of the house. Michael knew that the intruder was gone, for now. But he also knew that life with Taylor would never be ordinary. There would always be moments that tested their trust, their courage, and their love. And yet, in that moment, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. They had faced danger together, and they had survived. He understood that living with someone extraordinary meant embracing both the love and the challenges that came with it. For the first time in days, he allowed himself to relax. Taylor was not just a hero in some faraway place, she was his wife, his partner, and the protector of their shared life. Whatever came next, he knew they would face it together. The sun rose slowly over the quiet street, painting the houses in soft gold. Michael sat on the porch, sipping his coffee, thinking about everything that had happened over the past week. The gun, the intruder, the unexpected visit, and the neighborhood whispers, it had all felt like a storm. But now, as he looked at Taylor tending the small flowers by the porch, the storm seemed far away. Taylor glanced up, catching his gaze. Her smile was calm, warm, and real. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning," he replied, feeling a quiet gratitude he could not put into words. They had survived danger, fear, and secrets. And in doing so, they had discovered something deeper: trust, love, and the strength to face the unexpected together. Michael had spent nights wrestling with doubt, wondering how to live with Taylor's secret world. But now, he felt ready to accept it, not just accept it, but embrace it. "Taylor," he said, standing and walking over to her, "I've been thinking about everything. About your past, your training, the missions, and the danger. I realize now that the reason I fear it isn't because I don't trust you, it's because I love you. And I don't want to imagine life without you. Taylor's eyes softened. She put down her gardening gloves and took his hands in hers. Michael. I know it hasn't been easy. I never wanted to pull you into that world. I wanted a quiet life, a simple life with you. But my world and your world, they meet here. In us. And that's what matters. Michael nodded, feeling tears prick his eyes. I don't know if I can ever fully understand all of it. But I can promise you this: I will trust you, fully. Every day, I'll choose to trust you. Because I know you've chosen me too. Taylor smiled, her lips curving gently. And I will, Michael. I will choose us every single day, no matter what comes. The morning air felt lighter, filled with a sense of calm that had been missing for too long. For the first time since the incident, Michael allowed himself to breathe fully. He realized that love was not just about quiet mornings or laughter over simple meals. It was also about standing together through fear, facing the unknown, and believing in each other when the world seemed uncertain. Later that day, they went for a walk around the neighborhood. Children played in the yards, neighbors waved, and the sun glinted off freshly painted fences. People still glanced at Taylor with curiosity and admiration, but Michael noticed that the tension in the air had eased. Respect replaced fear. Appreciation replaced whispers. As they walked hand in hand, Michael asked, "Do you ever think about what your life would have been like if you hadn't chosen to come home?" Taylor looked thoughtful. "Sometimes. But then I remember why I came back. For this. For us. There's no mission in the world that could replace the life I have with you." Michael smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he had never known before. "I guess, we're both lucky. You brought your strength here, and I get to be loved by someone extraordinary." Taylor laughed softly. "And don't forget, Michael. You're extraordinary too in your own way. You've faced fear and stayed. You've learned to trust. That's not easy, especially for someone who didn't grow up in my world." They reached the small park at the end of the street, where the summer sun made the grass sparkle. Children ran past, playing tag, while neighbors sat on benches chatting. Taylor and Michael found an empty bench and sat down, letting the quiet surround them. For a long moment, neither spoke. They simply held hands, feeling the warmth of the sun and the gentle breeze. In that silence, Michael realized something profound: love was not about controlling danger or hiding from fear. It was about standing together, even when the world was unpredictable. "Taylor," he said finally, squeezing her hand, "I don't care what comes next. Danger, secrets, the unknown. I know we can face it. Because we have each other." Taylor leaned her head on his shoulder. "Exactly, Michael. No matter what the world throws at us, we face it together. That's our strength. That's our life." The afternoon faded into evening. The sun dipped low, casting a golden glow over the houses and streets. Michael and Taylor returned home, still hand in hand, their hearts lighter than they had been in days. Inside, they sat on the porch swing, rocking gently as the stars began to appear. Michael felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. He understood now that Taylor's past, her skills, and her secret world were part of who she was, but they did not diminish the life they had built together. Taylor looked up at the sky, then at him, her eyes reflecting the soft starlight. "We've survived fear, doubt, and danger. But more importantly, we've survived together. That's all that matters." Michael smiled, resting his head against hers. "Together," he echoed. And as the night embraced their quiet street, Michael and Taylor knew one truth with absolute certainty: no matter what the future held, no matter what challenges arrived, their love and trust would guide them through. The world outside might be unpredictable, but inside their home, they had found a peace stronger than fear, a bond stronger than any danger, and a life worth protecting together. They swung gently on the porch swing, hand in hand, hearts united, ready to face every tomorrow together.